Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Well, I don't usually plan podcasts in advance. I just wait until something bubbles up, and it always does, and there's a theme, and then it's like the universe is telling me, here's what to talk about. It's exactly what happened this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start by reading you a little snippet of something that one of my clients shared with me, because this is the theme, and I've had multiple clients all coming to me with the same question.
That's how you know it's worth talking about.
So she was listening to one of our old episodes, the one about honing your intuition and knowing when it's really fear. That was a side chat from, I want to say June 2019. I could be wrong about that.
We'll put it in the show notes, so.
Yeah, it was last summer. So you have to scroll back like a year. So she goes, it was nice to listen to, but a part of it made me sad. There was a part where Kristen said, she goes, I think it was a story of her like seeing a guy and like hearing that calm voice in your head of like, this is not the guy for me.
Yeah. Yep.
And she goes, the thing is, I had that exact experience with my ex, but the opposite. It was, when we were first together, I remember like sitting with him and just very calmly thinking to myself, oh, this is my husband. Just like that. Just a calm and a deep voice of intuition. And then 5 years later, and I'm hearing the opposite, which is I can't live like this anymore. And now the relationship is over. So she said, it's sad to think I believed. I heard my intuition 5 years ago when it told me I'd found my spouse. But now it couldn't be clearer that that's not true and we're not compatible anymore. So did I hear my intuition 5 years ago? Or was it wrong? Or was it right then and then did it change? How could it be so wrong? Is my intuition right now?
Oh, this is such a good question. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell your client that I've also heard it the other way.
Yeah.
And my feeling about this is that your intuition's always right. Mm-hmm. It's just our interpretations. So when
there's a number of things going on here.
First of all, in that particular instance, when your intuition says, this is my husband, your intuition's not saying, this is my husband. Your intuition is saying, this is where you're meant to be right now. This is kind of a good choice right now.
I would actually add to that. I wouldn't argue with it. I would enhance by saying, I actually don't doubt that she heard what she heard. And that she feels that's what she heard. And also, at any given time, your intuition, as a human, intuition is sort of like being downloaded. Like it's like infinite intelligence. Mm-hmm. You, as a human, are not the perfect translator of that information.
That's what I mean. Yep, exactly.
What might happen is that it's almost like there's a movie, like a 3-hour-long movie, and you're just getting a 30-second teaser trailer of it, and then you're making conclusions about what the plot of the movie is going to be based on the trailer, which may or may not actually be accurate. Mm-hmm. You saw the trailer. What you saw, you can attest to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have the whole story or that how you're extrapolating is always going to be correct. Also, it could have been exactly right in that moment.
True.
And it doesn't account for other people's free will. And like the just infinite number of timelines.
Circumstances that happen
right?
in between.
So there's a lot that goes on with intuition.
Exactly. So what I'm sensing is you got a very strong intuition that said, in this moment, this is right. Mm-hmm. And I think that was very accurate. I believe your intuition is always showing you the right next breadcrumb. It's not always showing you where it's all leading. So I've gotten that same message. Obviously, like I shared in that original side chat, I got a message while I was dating a guy once that said, "This is not your person."
And then you proceeded to
and then
ignore
I proceeded
it.
to ignore it, of course, because you still have free will, whether you listen to your intuition or not. But I've also had the opposite where I'd be like, this is right. This is it. And was that my husband? Not yet. I've yet to have a husband, right? So my this is it feeling has never gone all the way to the end. Does that mean that those past relationships where I felt like this is really right, that I was reading my intuition wrong?
No.
No. I think every single one of those experiences has helped my discernment, has helped me understand myself, has created really clarifying contrast, and were necessary stepping stones. And your intuition is saying, I know where what you ultimately want is, and I know the best path to get there, and I'm going to just show you the next step of the path.
I have another client, former client, who emailed me because she was annoyed not to have gotten a job. And she was like, I was so convinced I was going to get this job. Like, my intuition was just telling me this was the right thing for me. And it was like, I was excited and I was like pumped up. And then I got rejected and it was like, oh my God, how could I have been so wrong? And I said, you're not wrong. I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're thinking this job is the thing. When I think what your intuition is saying is that you're on the right track and that keep going. I think there was an aspect of that job that she was really excited about. And I actually don't think that had she gotten that job, she really would have gotten to do what she thought she was going to get to do to the fullest extent. And that she can now focus on the part of that job that excited her, but find it, I hope, in a way that's more aligned with her. So I think that's where both of these people, and you know who you are if you're listening, went wrong, is that you heard the intuition and you made it mean something about the end result. You were like, oh, like how I feel means this is right. Usually when it's intuition, it's this is right now.
Yep.
This is right. I'm on the right track. This is aligned with me.
It's like the warmer, cooler game. You're getting warmer, you're getting warmer, you're getting warmer. Like that's what you're hearing.
Right. I have another friend who is quitting a job after only a few months of being at that job. And she just was very clear with me that I feel bad. You know, I feel like this is going to trigger people and I feel bad about that. And I could not be clearer that this is not actually aligned with me. And maybe if I'd known that going into it, I wouldn't have even taken the job to begin with. But my intuition told me at the time this was the right thing to do. And my intuition is telling me now this is no longer the right thing to do. So does that mean that she was wrong to take the job? No, because I think that she's learned a ton in that 3 months. And I also think that potentially her coming in and shaking up that environment is going to ultimately be helpful to the people that she was working with and clarifying for them about what they want and what they're looking for. So I think that we have this sort of narrow-minded view of it's only intuition, or if it only counts if it's like an ultimate, right? If it's the end result that we're talking about. Like, but your intuition is always trying to guide you and always trying to help you. And it doesn't care. It really doesn't care if the person you're with or the job you're at is something you're with or doing for years and years and years. It cares that you find alignment now and that you keep doing that. And then as soon as it doesn't feel like alignment anymore, then it's on to the next thing.
That story is so relevant. I know who this friend of yours is. And I also just really, really relate because I feel like I've gone through this same experience truly in the past year. So pull it back to earlier last year.
Remember, well, they might want to go back and listen to our last side chat about upper limit problems from
where we
June.
Talk about that whole story.
We talked about that.
But to even go a little bit before that, I don't even think I mentioned this on the podcast, but like early last year, I was really, really feeling called to look into grad schools.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know why. I thought I was supposed to go back to grad school. I really did. And I do believe my intuition was telling me, look at this right now. Look into this.
Yeah, you triggered the shit out of me,
which
might be part of why you had the intuition.
Maybe.
Because it may have triggered some stuff in you and me that was
I think
helpful.
Sometimes your intuition is doing double duty.
Yeah.
Just like the friend you just mentioned who, it was clarifying for her to get that job. It was clarifying for the company, for her to come in and shake things up. But what I now realize I needed was not to go back to grad school, but to consider the possibility of something taking up a good chunk of my time alongside our business, which then when a part-time job opportunity popped up, I had already been thinking, how would I fit grad school in? So I was more open to, okay, I could fit a part-time job. And then I felt very clear that I was supposed to do that. And then by the end, I felt very clear that it was done. And I was like, what? This was like 8 months.
What was the point of that?
What was the point of that? Which I believe the point of that was to show me how my thriver is happy, having something on the side, kind of like a steady paycheck that I can clock in and clock out to. It liked that. I think it also showed me I can devote a good chunk of my time to some other pursuit while still having our business do well. And that opened me up to now I can take this other certification course that I mentioned in that recent side chat about UX design and actually feel like I can do that because I've proven I can devote, a chunk of hours every week to something else.
Who knows if that's
it, right?
But is anything it? That's what that
exactly.
Is anything ever really it? No.
It's just leading to the next
thing.
thing.
For now. Everything is just it for now. Now let us speak to the people who are depressed by that statement. Who feel like, oh man, that means I can't rely on anything. It means how am I supposed to know that something's gonna last? Well, it doesn't. So I don't know. You have to tell people how not to be depressed about that. I don't know that I can do that.
Because we're not supposed to stagnate. Because what would really happen is if you just got stuck, if like, that was it, I got the thing. And then you had nothing else to
I got a lot of life left to kill.
Exactly. I think most people, if they really think about that, that's the more depressing outcome is my intuition leads me to the right thing. And then I just do that thing. And then that's it. No more growth, no more new possibilities, no change. That sounds nice in theory, but it would get old in about 6 months or sooner.
Yeah.
This is all for your good. This is because we don't like to stand still as humans. We like to feel like we're moving. We like to feel like there's momentum and growth.
We also like to feel stable and safe. And it's just a constant tension between those two things.
Yep. And we want just enough safety, but not boredom and not stagnation.
But then we also don't like too much excitement. We don't like too much uncertainty. So it's just like trying to balance in the middle of a seesaw. You're never going to really manage it for more than like a second. And then you'd be like, I did it. And then you're going to fall off.
Right.
That's what happens. And so your intuition is not, And I really think this is a lesson I've had to learn, that it's not actually telling you, here is the end result. It's either saying, here are some likely scenarios based on where you're at right now.
Yep.
Here's what could happen. It also could just be like, this is what feels aligned right now. And who knows where you're going to be in 3 months or 5 years or whenever. And it's just trying to get you to do what feels most aligned now. And if you keep doing that in every moment, every day, then it ultimately doesn't matter what you do, because as long as you're aligned, you're going to be good.
Yeah, I feel like your intuition, I know we've used this analogy, but for something else, I think it applies here too. I feel like your intuition is like a GPS system where like you put in the destination, but then when you like
and
put
the
on the
destination
dashboard,
is not like a job.
No.
It's like a state of being. It's I want to feel fulfilled or something.
When it comes to your intuition, I think you're not even consciously choosing that. I think you just like it's your life experience. It kind of puts different things like into clarity. I don't want this. I do want this. And so the destination just gets preset from what you're learning all throughout life, throughout all your experiences. So you don't even have to know like it's this job.
No, it's just I want to feel fulfilled. And I know that I want to feel like that because I don't feel like that now.
Right. But then when you're driving and you have your phone up on the dashboard showing you the directions, it doesn't give you the whole list of directions like when you used to print them off, for those of you who are old enough to remember printing off directions and you had them all in front of you. The GPS on your phone just says the next direction is turn left.
Yeah, but then if you accidentally turn right, it's going to give you a different direction.
Exactly.
So you can't print it off.
Sometimes you look like you're going the opposite way, like you're supposed to be going south, but you're actually going north. But it's because it's like, no, there's traffic there. Yeah. We're going to route you around that and kind of go backward for a second to ultimately get you where you're going.
Ahead.
So I mean, your intuition doesn't always make sense. Just like, I know you've gotten frustrated by your GPS system before, because we all have, where we're like, this is a stupid way. Why are you making me go this way? But it's trying to get you there. And if you don't listen to it, it's fine. It'll show you a new direction to keep you on the track. But it doesn't always make sense to you. But you can trust, if you really thought of it that way, it's like, it's continuously reminding me of where I want to go, even if I don't get it in the moment, then it would be a lot easier to just trust those intuitive hits and recognize if they change later, that's also on purpose.
Yeah, there's not random. It's not like the universe is like, haha, psych. That's not what's happening.
That's not what's happening. It's not out to trick you.
No. No, it's just always helping you get in more and more and more alignment. And here's the thing. 5 years ago, you were a very different person than you are now. So what felt aligned to you then is sometimes not going to continue to be what feels aligned for you 5 years later. And so the universe isn't going to be like, oh, well, sorry, we told you this was your person, so now you just got to suck it up and deal with it. If the relationship no longer feels aligned, it's not your person anymore.
Right.
That's something that I haven't always liked the idea of, like, as someone who sort of is a real J on the MBTI. I'm like, one option is good for me. I don't necessarily need like 10.
Not a possibilities kind of person.
No. I'm a certainty and like, I like to a predictability kind of person. So the idea of like, there isn't just like one person you're destined to be with or one job you're destined to have, but there could be many people who at any given time, based on where you are and your progress and your alignment, are the best fit for you then, is not a comfortable thought, because what it means is living in uncertainty and trusting that things are going to work out and that you don't have to know, because as long as you're capable of trusting that intuition at any given moment, you don't need to know what happens next. You just keep following the next direction and the next direction. I don't like that. I would like to have all of my directions printed out ahead of time. I liked when we did that. And I liked when we couldn't take detours, because we just had to follow these directions, because that was the only way. You know, like if you took a detour and all you had was a list of directions, you're screwed.
So, okay, so that's what happens when you let your brain take over. It's like printing out directions. But then if you take a wrong turn, you are screwed. Or if you run into a bunch of traffic, you don't know what else you can do. You're like, I committed to this path.
Yeah.
And that's that. I have to commit now. I don't know any other options. And your intuition is like Waze, the app that's all about finding ways around traffic and taking the most efficient route.
Oh, is that why it's called Waze?
Yeah.
No, you just made that up.
I mean, that makes sense. Why it's
But you
called
did not
Waze.
know that, and you just said yeah.
Yeah, I think that is why it's called that.
Someone
Why
please
else
clarify that for me?
Why else would it
I
be
can
called
Google
Waze,
it.
though? That seems like... Anyway.
I don't know.
I thought that was obvious.
I never thought... I had really just like used up a lot of brain space thinking about the app Waze, but okay.
Fair.
Continue.
Okay, Waze is constantly changing, and it'll pop up and be like, oh, a faster route was just found. And it'll keep rerouting you to get you there in the smoothest way with the least amount of traffic and roadblocks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can print them out. And in some ways that is comforting, because now you're like, this is the route. Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But
that's what I
you
like.
end up sometimes taking a lot longer.
Oh,
because
hell yeah. Oh, sure.
if you hit traffic, too bad. You're in it now.
Yep. Doesn't matter that there could be 10 better routes. You're like, this is the route that I committed to. And there is value in commitment. We're not those like wishy-washy people who can't decide which route we take. This is the route. It doesn't matter how much longer or harder I'm making it for myself. I actually have
You can choose that if you want
to tell Kristen that I would rather my journey be longer and harder as long as it was what I wanted and I was and it was like my choice, which
I feel
is
like
so funny.
That would be on your gravestone.
Yeah. like I would what I'm actually saying
it was arduous, but it was her choice.
I would rather have control and my life be longer and harder than to be out of control and my life be easier. That's what I've been quoted
You
to
have
say.
that choice, right?
Yeah.
You can choose that path.
Sure.
It's going to feel harder.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? Even though it actually, you're not going to know that it's harder because you're not going to have taken the other path where you're going to experience that was actually easier, because that's the reason they're not doing it, is because it feels harder to surrender to the like, well, it could be this and it could be that. And that just ugh.
Yeah, well,
But
and
it will be harder.
if you don't trust your intuition, you'll keep falling back on those old directions. If you're like, I don't know if it's going to, I don't know if it's going to tell me when I need to turn right or left.
What if my client was like, no, this is my person. My intuition said.
Yeah.
So I just have to make this work. It would have been impossible.
Right.
She would have been miserable. And I don't even think it was possible to make it work. Because, like, that's not what he wanted anymore.
Right. I mean, there is free will of others.
Right. Other people have free will. But my former client could have done that. She could have really altered who she was to try to get this job because my intuition told me this is the right job for me.
Yeah.
And she could have, like, I don't know, showed up as a very different person in that interview and, like, convinced them to hire her. But that would have made it wrong because she would have been being hired for someone who she wasn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can try to manipulate it, but then you're going to get a really crappy result. So the only real solution here is to trust that your intuition knows a lot better than you where you're going and how to make you happy. And, like, here's the thing. Like, haven't you ever experienced that what makes you happy changes? Like, when I was 20, I really liked the Twilight series. I'm not sure that would make me happy now.
Right.
In my 30s.
That's what I mean. It's like if you picked that, if you were like, I like the Twilight series, and that is who I am.
Hard. Is that what they call themselves?
Probably a thing.
That's probably a thing.
Someone will correct us and tell us what it's really called.
Right.
But if you had decided that, then you'd have to stay committed to that. And you would have to love it now as much as you loved it then.
I couldn't evolve into someone who loved the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
That's actually what we all want.
Minus the Rise of Skywalker.
Strong opinions about that.
Very strong opinions about that. I never would have discovered Adam Driver, and what a shame that would have been.
See, it was right until it wasn't.
Exactly. And there might be someone who I love even more than Adam out there. I mean, whoa. But could be.
I'm slightly scared to see that.
Bring it on.
Level of intensity.
Bring it on. But right, that's the thing. It's like what your tastes change, what your preferences, are changed, what you're attracted to evolves. So if that's happening, then of course your intuition can't stay static. It evolves with you. So what was right 5 years ago or what felt like it was right in that job might just be a sliver of the real possibility. It was right for that
version of you, but you're a new version of you now.
Yeah. Or it was just a sliver of what was possible.
Yeah.
Not the whole picture. It was not the whole movie. It was just the little trailer, the little teaser trailer.
So the underlining point here is your intuition might sometimes seem contradictory, but it's still always routing you to the right place. So you can trust it, and then sometimes it's going to tell you something different, and you can trust it then too.
Yeah, you're not crazy. Even if it's, I think sometimes people might find it easier to trust it when there are like years in between. Even though, again, my client's like, there's 5 years in between, and she's still doubting.
Yeah.
But I understand why my client who was trying to apply for a job and thought it was the right thing, and then, a couple of weeks later is like, I guess it wasn't. Or my friend who got a job and then 3 months later was like, no, and honestly, it only took her a month, she told me, of being in it before she was like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And so, but like, I think sometimes when it's that quick, it can make you feel you have emotional whiplash. Well, what the heck has this been about then? And this was right for like a second and now it's not right? What the hell? And that's really just because it's really just trying to route you the best way that it can through a tricky, complicated human experience.
I mean, my first job, I knew like, okay, take this job. This is like the most aligned job at this moment. And then I quit after 6 weeks.
Right. So why did you have to have that job at all would be the question.
But I can look back now and see, usually in hindsight, you can figure it out. Don't even try to figure it out in the moment. That's just going to make you go nuts.
Yeah.
It's going to just piss you off, frankly, to try to figure out the reasons while you're in the thick of it. But usually if you look back, you can see exactly why you rerouted even sometimes that quickly.
Well, what about when you quit that job? Why did you only have to do it? Why did you only do it for 5? Why did you need that job at all if you only did it for 5 weeks?
I needed to feel what it was like in a really traditional stuffy office because that is a lot of what I help people escape from. And I understand how suffocating that kind of a place is. And I couldn't take it for more than 5 or 6 weeks.
Also, the job you wanted just wasn't ready yet.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I had interned for a place that I really wanted to go work. They weren't ready. And then about 6 weeks into my new job, they were. And I was like, okay.
Bye.
So I needed something to bide the time.
Yeah.
So I was ready when that thing came along. Okay, fine. New opportunities emerged and the best path changed for me.
Yeah.
It's always happening.
I apologize to all of you who hate this as much as I do.
Yeah.
I personally am not good at living in the moment and like just being like, well, it could be this or it could be that. Just go with the flow. I will punch people who tell me to go with the flow. You know?
This it's funny because when you were saying earlier as a J on the Myers-Briggs, you want there to be like one person and one job. I was like, oh, no, that stresses me out a lot more.
Are you kidding? I love that idea.
No. Because then like that is so much harder to like stick to the same thing. It's so much pressure. All of your choices matter so much because they have to be right because there's no course correcting. I love that there's course correcting. That actually makes me feel a lot more stable and comfortable.
Oh, see, there you go, guys. You can have totally different experience. Yeah. I don't like all that course correcting.
I can get it wrong like 100 times. And then it's still going to show me the right next path. I can always get back on the path. That's how I feel.
I think I'm very confident about being able to know what's right for me. And so I don't feel like I need a ton of course correction, but that also is probably just hubris.
It might be a little bit of that control coming out again. Like, I don't...
Yeah. But you also know that I'm very decisive and I'm also very clear and confident about what I want. And I don't actually need a lot of whiffling and waffling. And
that's true.
All of that to know who I am or what I want. Some people need a ton of experiences to get clear on what they want. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I know what I want. But that doesn't mean I don't need any contrast and I don't need any...
Even if you know what you want, I would still argue that the universe knows better.
I would agree. And I don't like that, but I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't like that there's a million routes to get there because it does stress me out. And I appreciate it. You know?
Yeah. I appreciate it mostly and then it stresses me out a little bit, but it's fine. You can be anywhere on that spectrum.
So... That's this side chat.
Keep trusting your intuition. That's the underlying message.
Your intuition isn't wrong.
It's always right.
You're not crazy. This is just the way of things.
Yep.
This is what intuition is. You're not doing it wrong.
No, you're not doing it wrong.
Yeah. Okay, Jinx. You owe me a kombucha. Alrighty. So, okay, reminder, we will not be back.
At all next week.
No, not at all. We will be back eventually. We'll be back the week after next.
The following Tuesday.
Yeah. We'll be back the 25th, I believe that Tuesday is. But we're taking off all next week from podcasting. You weren't going to get an episode on Tuesday anyway. So really all this means is you're not getting one next Friday. But
just give us a little bit more time to do some...
I got to move into my new place.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that in podcast at the same time. I think I've earned that right.
Plus it's summer. It's like, let's just, now that we're taking
tiny, like 1 week off. Woo, go crazy. Wow. Oh my God. How did I become someone who works like all the time? It's never my aspiration, but it just kind of happened. So that's that. We'll be back in like 10 days instead of a week. I think you can hold on until then. Also, I don't have the list, but I added to the show notes of this episode, I added like 4 or 5 episodes, all centered around the theme. If you want to work on honing your intuition.
We've done a lot on that. Yep.
Yeah, there's a number of episodes. So please go check out the show notes for listening, and then you can entertain yourself for the next 10 days until we're back.
Okay. We'll miss you guys. See you soon.
I mean, yeah. Like, I think I'll be just fine. And then I'll see you guys in like 10 days.
See you then.
Bye.